Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the full card of fights for UFC Fight Night, Covington versus Buckley. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight of the night. So in our first fight, we have in the women's strawweight division, we got Piera Rodriguez versus Josephine Knutsson. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Piera Rodriguez to beat Josephine Knutsson. Let me turn my sound off my phone before this thing start buzzing while I'm making the video. All right, I think that's good. But yeah, Rodriguez versus Knutsson. Knutsson is definitely a striker versus grappler matchup. Rodriguez is the grappler. Knutsson is a striker. But I feel like Pierre Rodriguez is the more well-rounded fighter. I feel like Knutsson really didn't show me any type of grappling in her last fight. I think that's why I'm leaning to Rodriguez. I feel like when Palastri took Knutsson down, I feel like Knutsson really didn't show much off her back, really showed much desire to get back to her feet. She was able to win, but I feel like the fight was a lot closer than what the judges said it was. And the time she did get taken down, it's not like Palastri's a great offensive grappler as far as takedowns goes. But yeah, Palastri was able to take her down, control her in a couple of these rounds. And I feel like Pierre Rodriguez can exploit that same tendency, take her down, and dominate her on the ground at points. I'm not saying a finish. A finish is definitely there on the table for both women. I'm gonna say, yeah, it's for both. But I'll lean decision. Pierre Rodriguez be able to get takedowns. Probably a very close fight. Knutsson win the striking, Rodriguez win the grappling. But Rodriguez doing more with the grappling, and Knutsson not doing enough with the striking to override Rodriguez's top control and maybe some ground and pound, some sub attempts. And again, probably a close fight that, it's going to come down to what the judges want, what the judges perceive more. Because sometimes judges like, oh, I like the control time more than the striking. Or I like the striking more than control time. It's always a matter of opinion with this stuff because it's never consistent. But I do think that Pierre Rodriguez will be able to get the takedowns, get the control time, limit Knutsson from having, great striking sets, like, doing great damage, like hurting her, dropping her, and stuff like that. Maybe limited to Knutsson getting points on the feet, but not really doing effective damage. Then Pierre Rodriguez getting takedown and getting large amounts of control time and keeping the striking on the feet relatively close. Maybe Knutsson landing maybe 10 strikes, 15 more strikes over the course of the fight on the feet. But Rodriguez probably having like 6, 7, maybe 8 minutes of control time over 15 minutes. And that being enough to get her hand raised in a decision victory. So in this one, I have Pierre Rodriguez via decision. All right, now to our next fight. We have in the bantamweight division, we got Davy Grant versus Ramon Taveras. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going Davy Grant, low confidence to beat Ramon Taveras. Yeah, Taveras is a solid fighter, but to be honest, I don't think I've really even picked him in a fight yet. Have I picked him in a fight? I was originally going to pick him in this fight, then I had to look back at I'm saying Taveras was going to knock him out, but then Grant has been dropped several times in his career, but he has never been knocked out. And it's not like Taveras has fought such great competition that has prevailed, looked so good in his looked so good against the level of competition that he has fought. He knocked out Cortavius Romeus, who was out there swinging with him with no type of game plan. And then in his last fight against Surrey City, he lost to Surrey City the first time, got stopped early. The second time, he was getting close to getting stopped several times in that fight. And I think he really got picked apart for the most of the fight. He landed a couple good strikes, but for the most part, Surrey City was putting on a striking clinic against him. But the judges gave it to him because I think of a cut. For whatever reason, they saw the cut as such a significant thing. But you watch the fight in the stats, Surrey City was beating the brakes off him. So, yeah, it's not. And another thing, when a fight like this, Davy Grant, he's coming off a split decision loss to Daniel Marcos that he arguably won. And Davy Grant might be up there in age, and that's my concern more than anything. It's not that, stylistic-wise, it's more so the age. Grant is 38 years old, 37, 38. But when I look at this fight like this, do I look at Taveras as a guy that's really going to, in my opinion, going to go on to be even a decent bantamweight? He could, but do I really see that? Like a decent UFC bantamweight, like a guy that could stick around, a guy that could climb the ladder, really climb the ladder? I don't see that. If that was the case, then I would probably lean Taveras low confidence. But given the fact that I don't really see that potential in him, from my perspective, my view, and from what I've seen in his fights, the fact that Davy Grant did just fight a highly touted prospect who was 15, 14-0 at the time, and arguably beat him, and a guy who had much more talent and much higher ceiling than Taveras, and he arguably beat him. It still shows me that he has that left in the tank, and also the fact that out of all these fights, he has not been officially knocked out. Grant has not been officially knocked out in his pro career, or in his UFC career. Got to go Davy Grant here. I think he'll be using experience. I think he's still got enough in the tank. I think he's for higher level competition, for higher level strikers, and has looked good against higher level strikers. I think he'll be able to break Taveras down, and I think he stops Taveras late in the second round via TKO. So in this one, I have Davy Grant via second round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the women's flyweight division, we got Miranda Maverick versus Jamie Lynn Horth. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going high confidence Miranda Maverick to beat Jamie Lynn Horth. Horth is a well-rounded fighter, probably the more well-rounded fighter, but I just feel like Miranda Maverick is the better overall fighter. She has fought nothing but elite competition for the last, probably even before she got in UFC, because she was fighting in elite competition at that time for her level in Invicta, and I think she won a tournament in Invicta, or whatever league she was in. Then she came to UFC, and again, fighting higher level competition, and she's younger. Horth is like 34, Maverick is 27. Or you might say, oh, Horth is 5'6", 5'7", that height or whatever. But I don't think she used it all that well, and her takedown defense is very questionable. She let what's it called, Veronica Hardy. Every time Veronica Hardy connected on her or ran into her, she fell on her butt. And similar with the Petrovic fight, anytime Petrovic went for a takedown, she pretty much got it, even with the ugliest takedown. Like she literally went like a hidden arm throw, and she had her arm like over the top of her head, and she still was getting thrown by that. It was like you getting taken down by the ugliest takedown. Like you give up takedowns too easily. Stats wise, it's still giving you respect, like because statistically wise, there was some scrubs that tried to take her down, so her stats not really where they should be. Like they're really, her takedown is like 30%, but because of some scrubs, padded her takedown stat is like 50%, which still is not good. And again, Miranda Maverick, I hate how I say her name, Miranda Maverick, but Miranda Maverick, yeah, she's young, she's training hard, she's training with the best competition. She even training with the chick who beat her, Jasmine Jazzy who's another solid fighter who's looking good and continuing to improve. Like she's fighting better competition, she's training with better competition, training with people that have beaten her, and she's getting better. And she's young, and whether you say this about her, one thing you can't say about Miranda Maverick is that you can't say that she's not tenacious. Like she'll go out there and push the pace. She's still 27. She's still getting to her prime. And I just have not been impressed with nothing Horth has done, wins or losses. Especially not her takedown defense department. I think Miranda Maverick will be able to take her down, out-grind her, out-work her. It's not like Horth's a big puncher. It's not like Horth has great submission defense or great takedown defense or such a high output striking. Maybe she'll put some money in the bank for the judges and they'll give her another close decision that shouldn't go her way. Maybe. But I don't see. I think Miranda Maverick's going to be able to, maybe a rough start, but I think Maverick will definitely be able to out-grind her, definitely be able to get a takedown, and definitely be able to put a grappling clinic on her. Maybe get a finish, but I'll lean to a decision victory for Miranda Maverick. So in this one, I have Miranda Maverick via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the featherweight division, we got Miles Johns versus Felipe Lima. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Felipe Lima to beat Miles Johns. And Lima, he's definitely got a lot of deserved hype here, but I'm going to kind of stay away from this one. Like, it looks like this and like that, but in reality, he looked good in his last fight and definitely, showed out for a guy debuting who was, really supposed to lose that fight. But yeah, I'm picking him. I'm acting like I'm not picking him, but he was probably on his way to losing. Like, as good as he looked, he was probably on his way to losing to Naimov until his coach said, like, what about your mother? What about this? And then it wasn't even him who really initiated the takedown. It was more so him just saw Naimov going for the takedown, was able to reverse position, get his back, and then choke him out. So it was a lot of factors. Like, he had to get motivated by his coaches, or his coach, and then he had to capitalize on Naimov initiating the takedown to find his own opportunity. It was kind of similar to the fight that just happened last week or a couple days ago or whatever between Gary and Shavkat, where it wasn't really that Gary went for that takedown to throw around. It was like Shavkat trying to go for a takedown, and Gary was able to kind of just swing the momentum and then take his back off of Shavkat going heavily for the takedown. But and Miles Johns, he's not going to give you that same opportunity. So Miles Johns is definitely live here. If Miles Johns is up in the fight, especially a guy that's been trying to get to the spot for so long, he's not going to choke like Naimov. Matter of fact, Naimov really, realistically, speaking aside, Naimov didn't even deserve the spot that he in or the height that he is or like half the wins he got in the UFC. He did a lot of cheating and still lost fights, but they gave it to him regardless. But that's a story for another day. But Miles Johns is live here. Solid takedown defense, looking the best he ever looked. Good team, but I'm going Lima. I just feel like he does have the more upside. Johns is a solid fighter, but I don't feel like he's ever gonna really be no true like no top five fighter. I feel like Lima could potentially be top five, potentially be champion. Big if on the champion part, and especially if he drops to and I think it's weird why they fight at featherweight, but I think especially if he drops to flyweight, he could make an immediate impact at flyweight. Not to say that he'll be no jump into a title fight, but I could see him flyweight being his true weight class for the time being, given what he like 26 or whatever. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of yapping on this one. I'm trying to let me tone it down. I'm yapping way too much on this single pick right here, but I think this will be a very close competitive fight. I think it'll be a split decision. I think Lima will be the more effective striker over 15 minutes. I think Johns will probably come on a little bit more late in the fight. I think he's the more grindy fighter out of the two. Lima did look to fade in his last fight, but I don't think Johns is that great of a finisher. So I don't think he'll be able to put a cap on Lima late. And I think again, Lima will probably do a good job defending takedowns. Johns. I don't think Johns is the greatest offensive. He has a solid offensive wrestling, but some guy. I feel like at this point in Johns' career, I think he's more so settled into the role of using his wrestling defensively more so than offensively at this level. And I think Lima. I'm not saying he can't get no takedowns, but I feel like Lima is not going to be in any great danger or give up too much control time off of Johns' takedowns. So that Lima on the feet, his striking will be perceived more than Johns' wrestling. On the feet, Johns does have good striking, but a lot of times he does resort to winging big shots. And I think Lima is a cleaner, more composed, more settled in striker. So I think he'll be able to land the flusher, cleaner strikes and dictate the striking tempo of the fight. So a very close fight throughout. I think Johns comes on strong late, but a little too late to get his hand raised off his work. And I think Lima wins a split decision over Miles Johns. So in this one, I have Felipe Lima via decision. Now to our next fight we have in the featherweight division. We got Sean Woodson versus Fernando Padilla. And how do I feel about this one right here? Yeah, what featherweight bout? Yeah, I'm going low confidence Sean Woodson to beat Fernando Padilla. Two long, dangerous fighters. But I do like the experience of Sean Woodson. I do like the level of competition that Sean Woodson has fought. I mean, Padilla did beat I hate about to forget the guy's name. Like literally, when some guy that you already know, but he did knock out a guy that did beat Woodson. Solid fighter, solid veteran. But yeah, styles make fights. I think Sean Woodson, the cleaner striker. I don't feel like Padilla is necessarily that much of a pressure fighter. He can be for sure. But I think Sean Woodson will be able to do a good job of using his length, using his reach, using his jab to keep Padilla at bay. And being able to outbox Padilla to a decision here. But Padilla is definitely very live. And I think if Padilla does come with the right game plan, he has everything he needs. Like, he can push the pace. I think Sean Woodson is susceptible to getting broken by pressure and pace and volume. And I think Padilla can bring that, but I just feel like he doesn't bring that enough or consistently enough for me to lean to him. But it's definitely close to the mark. But for me personally, it's not enough for me to pick him. But it's enough for me to leave the fight alone on the betting side. But yeah, I got to go Sean Woodson to be the cleaner striker, more experience, find his groove right now, and being able to beat Padilla by decision, probably split. But yeah. In this one, I got Sean Woodson via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the lightweight division, we got Jakar Klose versus Joel Alvarez. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going average confidence, Joel Alvarez to beat Jakar Klose. It's a lot with this one. It's a lot and not a lot at the same time, but Joel Alvarez is younger, he's taller, he's longer, much more of a finisher, much better momentum. Jakar Klose in the last fight was with Joaquim Silva. He almost got stopped by him. And Joaquim Silva, a solid talent, he's well trained, well this, well that. But as far as his UFC status or whatever he is in the UFC, the guy's been like a low tier lightweight for a long time. And for Jakar Klose to have to fight tooth and nail and to just get a split decision or a decision against him, it's not a good look. Joel Alvarez has been looking good, looking better with every fight. And really, who's the only person who really made him look bad was the guy who's fighting for the belt next, and that's Armin Sayukarin. So it's levels to the game, and I feel like Joel Alvarez has been looking good, looking better with every single fight. Jakar Klose has pretty much been looking the way he's looked since he entered the UFC. And that's not a good or bad thing, but it's not a positive for him. Like in this fight, he's been looking the same he's ever looked. No. And yeah, I don't feel like stylistically, Jakar Klose, I feel like he's definitely not the better striker. Joel Alvarez is definitely the better striker, definitely the better finisher of the two. Jakar Klose might have more experience at this level, but not no particularly great success. And as far as stylistically wise in fight, do I feel like Jakar Klose can really use his wrestling so great offensively? I don't. I feel like he might have a moment, but can he be consistent with it? And really, I don't really feel like he's going to be that effective because Klose has never really been a super effective take you down, ground and pound you, sub you type of guy, or take you down, control you type of guy. Not a take you down, control you type of guy. Not take you down and sub you type of guy. Not take you down and ground and pound you guy. And I feel like that's kind of what you would need, given his style or his strengths. And I just haven't seen it. And he has had plenty of fights, and I have not seen it. I've seen him get takedowns. I've seen him have these close little grappling battles where it's like he gets 3 takedowns to 2 of the other guys. But that's not who you're dealing with. Alvarez is not a guy looking to have a wrestling battle with you. He's a guy that's going to stuff your takedowns and look to piece you up. And I think that's what he's going to do. And I definitely can see him a club and subbing Jakar Klose, but I'm going to lean to like a second round knockout. Just accumulation of damage and put in Jakar Klose out in the mid to late stages of the second round. So in this one, I have Joel Alvarez via second round TKO. Now to our, let's see, a couple more fights left. Well, plenty more fights left. But next fight we got in the lightweight division, we got Michael Johnson versus Ottman Azaitar. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Michael Johnson to beat Ottman Azaitar. In reality, it should be an average confidence Michael Johnson, but Michael Johnson is who Michael Johnson is. 500 fighter then, 500 fighter now, 500 fighter for always. So he could sneak and beat some of the good fighters. He could easily lose to some of the worst fighters. Azaitar's not a bad fighter, but he's riding like a 2-fight losing streak after like a 3-year absence. Both brutal knockout losses. Johnson, coming off a pretty boring, mediocre decision over a competition he should have destroyed, but in the fight he used his wrestling more than he's really ever used it. But yeah, I go Michael Johnson. I'm going to go first round knockout for Michael Johnson over Ottman Azaitar. Michael Johnson's still fast, still accurate, still contests the chin of Azaitar. For higher level competition, should be the better striker. Azaitar not no particularly great wrestler from what we have seen or nothing at this level. And again, riding those knockout losses again is Michael Johnson. So any fight that should be easy, he's gonna make it hard or give it a chance to get knocked out. So I guess as far as picking a side in this one, betting wise, I would just probably avoid this one. As far as maybe just picking an under or a knockout prop, that's probably where I would lean, or probably where I will lean on this one. But yeah, I'll go Michael Johnson, the better striker, definitely for much better competition. He's not the guy that's coming off 2 knockout losses. So yeah, better momentum, better career, better resume. Still has enough in the tank. He still has enough in his tank, I think, to beat a guy like Ottman Azaitar and to put the lights out of a guy like Ottman Azaitar, especially riding a 2-fight knockout loss streak. So I'll go Michael Johnson to win this one. So in this one, I have Michael Johnson via first round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, we got Navajo Stirling versus Tokkos in the light heavyweight division. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going high confidence Navajo Stirling to beat Tokkos. Yeah. This fight is pretty much seeming like a setup fight for Navajo Stirling. And this is not the first fight, the second fight. This is like the third fight that Tokkos has been pretty much put in as a sacrificial lamb for a guy the UFC wants to build. So it was like Mi Yang Zhang. It was that African, French, black fighter. I don't know exactly which. I think he's all of those things. But yeah, this is like the third time in a row that they're pretty much using him as a sacrificial lamb to build up a fighter and add to their highlight reels. And I don't see, and even if you just look past the sacrificial lamb bit right there, Tokkos, like, on his wins, who has he fought? Who has he beaten? No one good. Like, not even had to be like, oh, it don't even have to be nobody exceptional. Like, did you even beat anyone good? It's not had to be exceptional. Like, oh, you beat this top prospect. You beat this, like, did you beat a guy who was like at least like 10-2 and somewhat decent? Like, your record be like guys that like 12-11, 7-11. Like, that's your wins. And it is what it's not no insult. This ain't no glazing. It's like, that's the truth of your resume. And from what I've seen from your striking, your grappling, I haven't seen nothing particularly special in your striking. That's particularly special in your grappling. And it has shown in both your fights. You got submitted in your last fight. And you got knocked out in the fight prior to that. So you're going there with a guy who's actually a high-level striker who trains at a high-level striking gym and has shown the skills in his fights and has shown the skills in his kickboxing career. Yeah, I just think Navajo Stirling is going to knock the guy out in the first round and continue the trend. He's getting stopped in the first round. He gets continued to stop in the first round. And continues to build up these prospects that the UFC wants to build up. So, in this one, I have Navajo Stirling via first round knockout. Now to our next fight, we have in the bantamweight division, we got Daniel Marcos versus Adrian Yanez or Yanez. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Daniel Marcos to beat Adrian Yanez. Um, Marcos for a great performance in his last fight, but I feel like down the stretch he did show weakness. He did get hurt down the stretch in his last fight, like third round. He still was able to rally and hold on, but he did, and get his composure back. It was a brief little moment of weakness. But for the first and second round, he just straight dominated and was close to finishing that fight several times. But yeah, Yanez has a chance. But I think the thing, Yanez is better than Castaneda in my opinion. But I think Yanez don't bring as much as Castaneda. Like, I don't think he has as much power, like one-punch power as Castaneda. I don't think he's as unpredictable as Castaneda. And also, he doesn't bring the wrestling, so I think... And I also think he's more susceptible to the leg kicks than Castaneda. I feel like Marcos can bring in a lot of what what's his name? Jonathan Martinez did against Yanez and look to attack the legs and take away his ability to plant, his ability to really like comfortably throw his jab. So throw off his tempo by attacking the lead leg, throw off his ability to plant, throw off his ability to cover distance, throw off his ability to use his feet, use his footwork, use his length to work the jab behind his jab, use his knees to intercept Yanez. And I think he can do a good job again. Taking away the legs, that's a big factor that Marcus can do. Especially the lead leg. Shoot that lead leg up. Intercept Yanez with stepping knees to the body as Yanez enters. And when Yanez gets in too close, hit him with elbows. And I think he could fight a very good, like a Muay Thai base style against Yanez. Similar to what Martinez did. It looked to break down Yanez here. But again, Yanez is definitely live here. I definitely can see if he can push the pace and get him on his inside and get his boxing going. He's definitely very live here. But I do think Marcos is kind of dealing with, for the most part, like a one-dimensional fighter. And I think he can take away that one dimension from Yanez and beat him by decision. Stoppage is definitely on the table, but I'll lean decision. Yanez is very tough. And I don't really see Marcos as such a big finisher at this point in his career. Obviously, this could be the fight that he turns the page. But I see more so decision here for Marcos. So in this one, I have Daniel Marcos via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, we got Dustin Jacoby versus Vitor Petrino. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going Vitor Petrino average confidence to beat Dustin Jacoby. Yes, there's more upside with Petrino. I'm not liking the fight Petrino's coming off of, but it's not like Jacoby's going to jump on no guillotine or have no particularly great game plan. He's going to look to kickbox and sprawl and strike. And I think Petrino is young, he's strong. He could pick Jacoby up to put him on the ground. And on the feet, I think he has the power to be able to, and the skill to be able to shift momentum. Jacoby probably the cleaner strike, but Petrino will be able to touch Jacoby at times with big power, especially with Jacoby coming off a knockout loss and returning a little bit soon. I think Petrino will be able to cover the distance, the gap in the striking just a little bit, given that fact. Given his athleticism, given his build, his power, and the fact that he has respectable skills of his own on the feet as well. And be able to cover that gap, that skill gap, and be able to hurt Jacoby and hold his own with Jacoby on the feet. And also with the threat of takedowns as well. Again, further closing that gap on the feet. I think he'll be able to break Jacoby down, mixing in the striking, mixing in the grappling. Then probably like a club and sub. Once Jacoby starts respecting his grappling too much, drop his hand a little bit, probably gets caught with like a hook that he circles into. Then Petrino either picks him up after hurting him or just follows him to the ground, advances ground and pound, subs him in the second round. So yeah. Mixture of the martial arts, younger 27, 28-year-old fighter versus like a 34-year-old Jacoby who has had mileage in kickboxing, mileage in MMA, coming off a knockout loss, going in there with still a bright prospect in Petrino who could still easily turn around, turn back from that loss. And yeah, kind of like a club and sub type of situation in the second round for Vitor Petrino. So in this one, I have Vitor Petrino via second round submission. Now to our next fight. We have in the flyweight division, we got Manel Kape versus Bruno Silva. And how do I feel about this one right here? I'm going low confidence Manel Kape to beat Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva is definitely live here, but yeah, I just think Manel Kape can address his wrestling. I don't feel like he has such phenomenal offensive wrestling. I think Kape could definitely address the wrestling. On the field, I think Manel Kape has just a much better striker, offensively, defensively, counter-wise. And Bruno Silva was getting picked apart by, what's his name, Cody Durden on the feet. Which is MMA math or MMA long division, but nonetheless, I think Kape is just a different level on the feet. Silva got this power as well. You got to respect it, but I think Mano Kape is just clearly levels above on the feet and should be able to pick him apart on the feet. And I'm looking at like a second round TKO for Mano Kape here. So in this one, I have Mano Kape via second round TKO. All right, now to our next fight. We have in our co-main event, we have Cub Swanson versus Billy Quarantillo in the featherweight division. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Cub Swanson to beat Billy Quarantillo. I just feel like Cub Swanson is the better overall fighter. Quarantillo, I feel like where he could win this fight, again, probably like mixing in his grappling and pushing high pace. You know, high value on the feet, mixing in the grappling, and just really just all around pushing pace. And he definitely can do that. But I don't feel like Quarantillo's offensive wrestling is all that great. Probably the better BJJ guy. Definitely, again, regardless of what it is, striking or grappling, definitely the guy that will be able to push the pace. But I feel like, can he really get it to a round where he can push the pace? I don't feel like he's that good at pushing people against the cage. I don't feel like he's that good at really securing takedowns. And on feet, I feel like Cub Swanson still is a much slicker striker and arguably won his last fight. And I just think Cub Swanson can address the grappling of Quarantillo and limit the engagements where Quarantillo can try to push and use his pacing and volume to try to win. I think Cub Swanson can, counter his volume striking and, make him kind of give hesitation once he starts to walk into overhands and walk into jabs and walk into body shots and walk into spinning back kicks, walk into oblique kicks, and like slow Quarantillo down, bring him to his realm, and just be the sharper striker. In the grappling, limit Quarantillo's grappling, and probably even sometimes hit some judo throws on Quarantillo and put Quarantillo on the bottom. And again, this man's the slicker, more technical fighter, like I said. He might not be, well, neither of these guys are particularly young, because Swanson obviously has much more mileage, and obviously been a guy that was elite at one point for many years. But because Swanson's like 40, 39, Quarantillo was like 35, so it ain't no super great age gap between them. I think Swanson still has enough in his tank to beat Quarantillo. No insult to Quarantillo, but I think Swanson has enough in his tank left to still beat Quarantillo and bring Quarantillo down to his tempo where Swanson can prevail. So in this one, I have Cub Swanson via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in our main event, we have in the welterweight division, we got Colby Covington versus Joe. Honestly, this guy dying over here. We have in the main event, we have Colby Covington versus Joaquin Buckley in the welterweight division. How do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Joaquin Buckley to beat Colby Covington. And as I said in the quick pick, I just think Colby Covington, yes, he's been training, yes, he's this workhorse, blah 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 this, blah 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 this. But the most important work you can do is being active and actually competing, and he has not been doing that for like 5-6 years. He had like 2 fights in the last 6 years, and they both were losses. Maybe might throw in the Masvidal fight, and by the way, not a whole lot of activity. And he looked the part in his last fight. He looked very flat in his last fight. Whereas Joaquin Buckley has been continually getting better, continually finding new peaks, looking the best he's ever looked, finding a new stride for himself, and has found the division for him. He has found his division, and he is rapidly rising up the ranks and looking better pretty much every single time out. I think Joaquin Buckley has exceptional cardio, especially for the build that he has, and especially for the style of fighter he has. I think his cardio is underrated. He trains hard. And even with that muscle mass, he's still able to push a pace, still able to go for a lot of takedowns, throw very heavy, have a very bouncy, explosive type of style. And I think Buckley can address the grappling Covington and be able to find the mark on the feet and be able to put Covington out there. And I'm not even saying it's going to be a case of he just needs to find one punch and he'll get dominated the rest of the fight. I think he could win he could win this fight in an instant, and he could win this fight over minutes. I feel like he's definitely a much more dangerous striker. Covington is more so a volume guy, even on the ground, more so just a volume work rate guy. And I think Buckley can address grappling. He's a wrestler first himself, so I think and his wrestling defense has been improving a lot. His wrestling offense has been improving a lot. He's been working on the area a lot, so I think he can address the grappling of Covington. Not to say he shuts him down completely on the feet, on the grappling, but he can address it enough and then be able to find his spots on the feet to hurt Covington, then eventually put Covington away in the third round. So in this one, I have Joaquin Buckley via third round TKO. And that concludes my fight predictions for the full card of fights for UFC Fight Night, Covington versus Buckley. And as always, thanks for watching. Peace out.